Hello, welcome to, what is it, the 21st day of May 2025. You can get that out, Kurt. Losing track of days and dates. My name is Kurt, and this is my Good Life Meditation, an exercise that I do at about 6 a.m. every morning. I do this to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined in my book, Going Alone. I also use the time to think about the last 24 hours and how I did with any noteworthy challenges or opportunities that I met. I go over the 8 objectives of my creed and one of the principles, and then I plan for the coming day. But before I do all of that, let me quickly say welcome to the new subscribers to the channel. Had a lot of new ones yesterday. Wow. If you're watching this for the first time, this video is a little bit different than what you might expect. This is a journal video, so I'll be going over this is all about me. So if you see the Good Life Meditation and got my face right across the front in the uploads, just be warned that this is like looking over my shoulder while I do my Dear Diary. As a result, I don't read or respond to comments while I'm in the midst of this because I'm doing this personal entry. But I will catch up with comments afterwards. Also, I do talk about sensitive subjects here. I talk about death every day. So if you're sensitive to that, be forewarned. Also, I do, pardon me, the mosquito coil incense makes me sneeze sometimes. I do want to offer a sincere thank you to my Patreon supporters, the YouTube members, and those who watch my videos. You provide the fuel, literally, the gas in the tank, coffee in my veins, and the lunch that I buy when I go on my adventures. I was planning to do an adventure today, but turns out we need to take Dad to the doctors today, so I'm going to postpone it till tomorrow. It could be raining tomorrow. Now, rainy adventures are sometimes the very best when you're in the Japanese countryside. Why do you say that, Kurt? Well, on a rainy day, everybody stays indoors, so you get Japan all to yourself. So when I go into the deep mountains, if I can tolerate being plopping around in the rain by myself, it can be quite a satisfying experience. Let's see if tomorrow turns out to be the day to do that. I think it will be. All right, let's get started. I do have my notes. Keep a notebook with me all the time, taking careful notes about what happens throughout the course of the day. What I'm looking for are, this isn't a chronological notebook saying, Dear Diary, at 9 o'clock I had breakfast, it was granola. At 10 o'clock, Wendy called me and we chatted about Brad. I'm not doing an entries like that. What I'm writing in my notebook are things that happened in the course of the day where I was suddenly ambushed by something that, an ambush is the right word. Something happened that I didn't expect it. Let's say, for example, I plan to go work in the garden, and my plan to go work in the garden was to get the hoe and the rake and to go clean up a particular area. And while I'm in the course of doing that, suddenly a neighbor, pops up and has something that they want to talk with me about, I'm stumbling with my poor Japanese, and I'm doing the best that I can. And how do I handle that? Well, this is not a good example because that really doesn't bother me. Integrating with talking to people in Japan, even though I don't speak Japanese very well, is not something I'm anxious about. I jump into it forthright. Okay, the better example would be, let's say for like the incident a few weeks back when I was backing the car up and I banged into a fence. Okay, our neighbor's fence, and I broke their fence and I broke our car. How do I handle that? Let me put this copper de Senko down. How do I handle that in the moment? Did I handle it well? Did I muster my fortitude to control my emotional reactions, then apply reason to think my way through the situation, and then come up with a plan and execute that plan? Or did I, fall apart a little bit and panic a little bit and fluster and call my wife and say, you won't believe what I did? That's the distinction that I want to make. So I'm looking for things throughout the day in which things didn't go as expected. I didn't plan to run into the fence. Things didn't go into as expected. And how did I respond accordingly to that? That's what I'm looking for in this. Now, I've been having a problem lately insofar as I don't have a lot of those things to report anymore. And that's because my life has I almost want to say the word devolved, but it doesn't feel that way. It's simplified to the point now where I'm not finding myself encountering a lot of things that challenge me anymore. My life is quite simple. I enjoy my home, my garden, my routine with my wife, an adventure maybe once or twice a week, and not much is happening. Although I just remembered something that I can add to it that I will add, and I'll run it past all of you. So, interested to get your feedback as well. So, I mentioned before that my Japanese isn't very good. And I have one of the things that I do to improve my Japanese is I jump headfirst into whatever circumstance I can to help me improve. For example, if we look over the wall, I can just change the camera here. You see that bamboo forest over there? Okay, across the river? That's owned by a farmer. And for example, I was out in the yard maybe a month ago, and I saw him over there working on his farm, and he had just dropped a big tree, and I was looking for an excuse to introduce myself to him. So when I saw him drop the big tree, I ran inside. Yumiko had made some fresh oatmeal muffins. I wrapped up an oatmeal muffin and I walked across the river, and he was up there with his chainsaw, and I waited for a moment with his chainsaw on. And I introduced myself, and I went up and I offered him a muffin. I told him I'm from across the river. This is all in Japanese. I recently bought the house, and introduced myself, and I was doing the neighborly thing. You do that here. You get to know all of your neighbors. Now I had to wait for him to show up to be able to do that. I knew he was over there because I'd seen him pass by a couple of times. And then I offered to help him with his big tree, to help him fell the tree. So that's the kind of thing that I do then, and I do that all the time, every opportunity I get. And one of the things that I've been thinking about doing was, even though I don't work, I was thinking about getting like a part-time job in an industry where I would have to speak Japanese. In particular, you guys might find this interesting. I live near a fishing port, and I've been going down and hanging out at the fishing harbor once in a while, and I have this idea that I could become a fisherman, ingratiate, and I already introduce myself kind of to the fishermen. I would sit by the dock, and the fishermen would be there. I can see, because they go out really early in the morning, and they come back around noon with their catch. They unload their catch, and then the owners of the boats will stay and process the fish. Well, the workers will get on their bicycles and go home, and they usually go home around lunchtime. And I was thinking, I wonder if I could get a job as a fisherman, because I don't think those guys speak English for the most part. It wouldn't be expected, but it would be a great chance to throw myself in. Or maybe I could get a job, doing something or other, work at a supermarket, stocking shelves or something like that. So remember, I'm looking for things where I'm ambushed by the unexpected. So I mentioned this to my wife yesterday, and we had talked about similar. I told her in the past that I said, maybe I should go to Japanese school, and she was like, no. She was like, so you don't. She's just, and she's really hesitant. She thinks about it. She says, no, you don't need to do that. And her response at the time was, Kurt, you're doing fine. And then I mentioned yesterday to her about getting a job speaking where I'd have to speak Japanese. And again, her response was, after she gave it some careful thought, no, Kurt, you don't need to do that. And then what she said, she always says the same thing, you're doing fine. Now, I'm going to have to talk with her a little more about it, because I want to learn more about what her thoughts are, why she doesn't seem to want me to either get a job or to go to language school, which is an interesting thing. So remember, the purpose of this is to talk about the things that ambush me. So that kind of unexpected. So the way I chose to respond to that was just to think about it a little bit more, and we'll talk about it more today. that's all there was for yesterday. Nothing really. Oh, I had a really great experience down at the river yesterday. I went down. I was working in the garden, and I was getting kind of hot and sweaty. And I thought, well, why don't I just go down and take a dip in the river? And I did, and it was a real nice experience. So that was good. Okay, so there was really nothing to report from the last 24 hours. So let's go over the 8 objectives of my creed. This is where I'm calibrating myself to my ethical north. These are the 8 things that I'm going to strive for today, and if I can achieve these 8 things, then by the very definition that I will pass through the day in alignment with these objectives, then that day should yield a good day, whatever I'm doing. The first objective is to be always ready to die. That means I need to make sure that my affairs are in order, my relationships are in good shape, and my life's work is either complete or in a ready state. My papers aren't a mess. Now, my affairs are certainly in order. Now, as for my life, so that's a yes. As for my relationships, well, if you've watched these videos, you know my relationship with my mother is fraught. Never had a good relationship with my mom. Despite my never-ending efforts to try to have a good relationship with my mom, it just has never happened. My mom she'll also, and I'm not going to talk about the details because it's unseemly to talk about another person who can't defend themselves. But she oscillates between 2 different types of correspondence, very positive stuff and the other stuff. And she's on a kick right now with the very positive stuff, and I'm interacting with her, and engaged in that. So what I'm trying to do is walk a careful balance, because I know that things can turn very quickly. Yet, as long as I've got her on line, because this latest bout of good communication with my mother is a result of my own efforts, because I have to reach out to her every month or so, just to kind of like a well-being check to make sure she's okay, and that requires some effort on my part to figure out a type of correspondence that I can do, or a phone call. In this case, it was a phone call that I did to check on her, which she quickly hung up on me. She made it very clear. I called her up to say hi, and it's the first time I'd called her in a long time. And the phone conversation lasted less than 30 seconds, and she got off the phone. She basically hung up on me. So, but that was followed by a long series of email correspondence that we've had now since that phone call that have been very good. And I know that that's going to change. So that's my effort. She's the only person in my life that I have a relationship like that with, that I have a relationship that isn't good, that I continue to try to make good. But after 61 years of life, I know will be nothing. I know that's not going to happen. So all I can do at this point, the only reason, using reason to recognize what my true, and limits to recognize what my true limits and my true opportunities are. The limit is that I know that I can't have a better relationship with my mother any more so than she's willing to have with me. That's just not, and she doesn't want to have a relationship with me. So that's just not going to happen. But the opportunity, hashtag family, the principle of family, I know that I have a filial responsibility to her to make sure that she doesn't suffer in her old age. And I will fulfill that duty. I choose to fulfill that duty, even though I believe that there have been circumstances that I would be within my rights and reason to just walk away, but I won't. So that's one of the reasons I try to maintain the contact with her. The opportunity, limits and opportunity. The opportunity is for me to maintain that communication, so I keep a lifeline going, that when she does finally fall down and break her hip and she's put into a hospital in the United States, I can hop on an airplane, fly back to America, and be there for her to facilitate whatever needs to be done to facilitate a safe and, how do you say it? She's 90, so I mean, what do you say? Facilitate a safe pain-free, as painless as possible for her end-of-life circumstance, whatever that is. So to that end, I have all that worked out. I have it worked out with my brother, who still has small kids, so that's why I'm going to take the brunt of this, because my kid is grown. So my brother will be there for her initially, because he only lives an hour away from her, and then I'll get on a plane and come over and take care of the rest. So that's my effort to fulfill objective number 2. I'm sorry, fulfill objective number 1's parameter of having good relations. Remember those three parts of being ready to die: to have my affairs in order, my relationship sound, and that's what I'm doing with my mom, to try to get my relationship as sound as possible with her, at least so I can fulfill my duty. And then 3, the third part is to have my affair, which is to have my life's work complete. Now, my life's work, there's lots of new subscribers, so I'll go over it again. My life's work consisted of 2 things. 1, being a good father and raising my daughter to adulthood so that she could sustain herself on her own, and that job is done. So that's my main life's work. That life work is done, checkbox complete. The other life's work was to live a life engaged enough with the world that I could have a story to tell, not for the sake of the story, but so that I will have mined from the experience of life a perspective, and most importantly, a way of thinking, a creed that I could codify to live by in my later years, which I'm doing now, and then share with for the benefit. I wrote this basically for my daughter, to leave behind for her when I'm dead. She'll come back and she'll have this, and she'll carry this forward into her life, and hopefully with her family, and maybe a grandchild down the road will one day encounter, great-grandfather Kurt's book, Going Alone, and find the creed that I've left behind. And of course, along the way, as I make these videos every day, it has that benefit of sharing it accordingly there. So that's my second life's work. And that life's work is ongoing but complete because the book's done. So yeah, I think I'm ready to die. My life's work, my affairs are in order, my relationships are as sound as possible, and my life's work is definitely complete. Now, when that is realized, when at not even 7 a.m. yet, it's not even 6:30 a.m. in the morning, I haven't even finished my first cup of coffee. And I gain, as I do every day when I do this exercise, and I gain the recognition that I'm ready to die. I don't want to die yet. I have a lot of things I want to do. I want to play in that river some more today. But I'm ready to die. There's a great sense of completion that attends that recognition. There's an Asian giant hornet right there. It's kind of hard to describe. It's like starting the day. If you have a good solid day of work ahead of you, and you get to work early, and you lay into that task, and you complete that task within the first 2 hours before you've even had your snack at 10 o'clock. Start work at 8, and by 10 o'clock it's snack time for a cup of tea and a piece of senbei or whatever it is, and the big work of the day is done. That feeling of being completion, that you still have the day ahead of you, but the thing that you needed to do is done, that's the same way that it feels to start your day in the morning and knowing that your affairs are in order, your relationships are as sound as possible, and your life's work is complete. Now, it's hard to get to the point of being your life's work is complete if you're younger than me. I mean, I'm 60, I'm 61. If you're still 20, you probably still have all your life's work ahead of you. But at least to have it on course, have some idea about what that direction it would be, what your life's work might be, identify what it is, and then have a roadmap of sorts to get there. And if you're not sure of what that life's work is, at least to identify what constitutes a worthwhile life. What is it? What are you doing in the course of it each day that seems like it's worthwhile? What is the foundation of a worthwhile life? That's the road to having a life's purpose. All right. Now, that was only one objective. The second objective is to make good and effective use of my time. To not feel like I passed, when I get to the end of this day and I put my head on the pillow later, that I wasted my day. Now, that becomes a lot easier once our life's work is complete. But for me, like I said, my life's work is complete, but my life is not over. I have a lot that I want to do. I want to make good use of every day. That's why I get up at 4 a.m. That's why I've already walked about 2.5 miles already this morning. I've written my journal entry in this morning, and I'll soon be done with this meditation, all before I even kiss my wife good morning. This is good use of time, and then to keep that up throughout the day really makes each day feel like it was generously engaged and used, and with gratitude for the fact of the day. Number 3 is to develop, this third objective is to develop and maintain good and sound life principles. Now, for me, that meant writing them down, working on them, and then applying them every day. Now, when I first wrote Going Alone, it didn't have the Good Life Creed. I didn't have a creed associated with it. I set out, it was about 2015 that I started to write the creed. And when I first wrote the creed, I only had 8 items total. Now there's 8 objectives and 35 principles. And it took every day, by working on it every day, I was able to develop all the rest of it out. So that's what the third objective is to continue tinkering with the creed every day. And that means that I think about all 8 objectives as I'm doing it right now. This is exactly what's happening right now. And then I read one principle a day, and I think about it also through the course of the day. Sometimes we're driving along, and my wife will look over at me, and I'll have a bemused look on my face. And I'm thinking about, my values, and I'm trying to mull through, where I could improve it. And that's what the application of this third objective is to do just that. Number 4 is to cultivate good emotional reactions. Kind of like, someone that studies martial arts trains themselves to have, good reactions if they're attacked. What I'm trying to do is train myself to have good reactions should life not go as I expect, which is the ambush that I previously mentioned before, when things don't go as you expect and we suddenly find ourselves either off our footing or keeping our balance and handling it well. Number 5 is to perform good actions relative to my creed. Number 6 is to recognize my true limits and true opportunities, like with my mom. What can I do and what's outside of my reach. Number 7 is to do just one thing at a time and do that thing slowly and deliberately and carefully. And number 8 is to maintain my balance so that I'm neither stumbling or falling in fact or in mind. All right, and with that, I'm going to now read one of the principles where I left off yesterday. So turning to the chapter titled The Good Life, and you can read my book and you can find these principles yourself at goingalone.org. It's all free. You can also, if you're a member of my Patreon, which is free to join as well, you have access to all of my writing on Patreon. Let's see, where did we read yesterday? Oh yeah, yesterday was number 13, public speaking. Let's go to number 14, temperance. One of the most readily applied of all of the principles that I have. I use temperance all day long. Temperance is nothing more than my ability to control my consumption. Now we think about temperance like a temperance movement, right? It's controlling the consumption of alcohol. But you can temper yourself with everything. You temper yourself largely with consumption, but of all sorts. But you can also temper our emotions, control the rise of emotions and how they express themselves. You can have a volcano going inside, but still maintain our mature cool, manage the situation well, letting reason be our guide. And then it doesn't mean necessarily that it's going to explode later. These things the emotions can kind of cool off, especially if we sit down later and think it through, which is how I tend to deal with things. When I have a moment that emotions really rise, I temper it down. I try to use reason to manage it, and then later I'll have a debrief, so to speak, and talk to myself about what happened and how I handled it well. Well, I write it down in my notebook, right? And then the next morning I'll talk about it here in front of all of you. How did I handle it well? How did I not handle it well? How could I have done it better? Where did I do well, and how can I do more of that? So let me read it. Temperance has 3 sub-principles: suffering, simplicity, and apathy. And there's a quote here from Alexander the Great: "Keep your tongue and your belly under control." Here's the part that I wrote. It's very, very simple. It's 1 paragraph. Temperance is the controlled consumption of all things, such as food and drink, work and play, and even our thoughts and emotions. I will strive to recognize these consumables and then measure out a reasonable portion for myself, and then strive to consume very little of that. Such worthy living naturally entails some suffering when we deny ourselves our wants, though a simple life makes this easier when the denial becomes part and parcel of our habits and conditioned response. I will then apply apathy towards the intemperance of others, as well as any personal misadventure which is beyond my control. I will recognize my own excess and that of my peers, and then use apathetic indifference as a buffer to prevent my consumption of the Feast of Offal, which is another principle in the book, which we'll come to later. So let me unpack a little bit of that. The 3 sub-principles are suffering, simplicity, and apathy. The reason that suffering is a part of temperance is that temperance, to be able to control ourselves, means that we need to tolerate suffering a little bit. So when we're in pain or frustrated or anxious or whatever, if we can control that emotion and not let that bubble up, then we're suffering a little bit as we're consuming that. We're kind of swallowing it back down. But we're doing that for the sake of the others around us, so that we're not spewing it out over them, losing our cool, losing our control, etc. Simplicity is also a component of temperance, because a simple life is by definition a temperate life. If I limit myself to 1 beer a night, and I practice that, I'm not likely to need to apply temperance to my consumption of alcohol, because by virtue of my habits, I'm temperate by virtue of simplicity. Apathy is the most interesting one here. Apathy is a very Stoic idea when we apply apathy to the parts of life that are beyond our control. Stoicism speaks deeply about recognizing what is and what is not within our control. And the Stoics would mostly say that the only thing that's truly within our control is how we choose to react to the world around us, our response. We control what happens in our head around the world. It happening around the world. Now, there's a great story I'll just tell you really quickly. Stilbo, the Stoic. It's a story that was told in Stoic circles in the Roman times. Stilbo was a Stoic whose city was attacked by a marauding army. His entire family were slaughtered. His home and business were burned to the ground. And Stilbo, when he came stumbling out of the ruins of his burned city, having lost everything, stumbled upon the great leader of the opposing army, who recognized him and asked Stilbo about what he had lost. And Stilbo's Stoic response was simply, "I have all my goods with me." A very enigmatic response after having lost everything. And what Stilbo meant, that was that he was applying apathy to the things of the world. That though he had lost his wife and his children and his business and his home, he still had his self-control over his own mind, his ability to reason, and his thinking process. Apathy allowed him to, if not accept, it's not that these things didn't cause him pain, but at least he was able to offer a measured response to the facts of the world as they were unfolding in that tragic way. A very different approach from Job, wouldn't it be? Who, in a similar story in many ways. Job really didn't. I guess you could say that in a way, Job from the Bible applied Stoic apathy with regard to his allegiance to God, right? Anyway, I diverge there. So anyway, so we apply apathy in 2 ways. One, when we disconnect ourselves from circumstances that happen to us that are beyond our control, we're applying apathy there. For example, if I go out in the rain and I go for a walk and the rain comes down, instead of getting upset that I forgot my umbrella, I can be apathetic to the fact that I didn't bring an umbrella was a decision that I made that I can't go back on it now, and it serves me no good other than maybe as a cautionary tale to get any more than a little bit upset on the inside, and then to keep my self-control, come back and remember to bring an umbrella next time or check the weather before I go out. Also, apathy can be applied when we apply it to the actions of others whose, besides our children in some ways, are pretty much outside of our control. So that's where temperance can be achieved through suffering, the willingness to suffer in peace, or at least suffer in silence. Doesn't mean we have to repeat the mistakes. We can remember whatever it is that caused us suffering. That's part of why I write down where I fail, so that I can then try to do better in the future. But in the moment, suffer through it, live a simple life, which by definition is a temperate life, and then apply apathy to the things that are outside of our control and the people that are outside of our control, which is almost everybody, even our kids in some ways. Now, I got through all of that. Let's now go to today. So for today's goal, I started my antique store, and I have about a dozen items that I picked up at the flea market and the antique auction last week. So I'm going to start listing some of these items. I'll do the photography here. I bought this beautiful piece of wood just for that purpose. That's my standing desk. And then I'll do the photography. And also we're going to take Dad to the clinic. And Yumiko and I have a couple of things we're going to do. Plan to do some yard work, and maybe I'll pop in the river if the sun comes out. That's it for all of that. Let's go through comments. Hi Heather, good morning. What are you burning in the incense? That's called katori senko, and it's a incense, a mosquito repellent incense that you can kind of burn. I have this little burner thingy here. It's got the lid there, and then the smoke comes wafting up, keeps the mosquitoes away. Hi Sam, good morning to you. And Heather says hi to Sam. Elvina, I always call you Elvira, sorry. Hello Elvina, good morning. And from Toronto, hey there. And Guten Morgen, Sam says. Sam says there's a YouTuber called Real Rural Japan. He is a cafe owner in countryside Nagano. In order to learn Japanese, he joined the community farming thing there, and he really loves it. Great idea, Sam. I know that channel. In fact, I'm going to do something similar. We have in our community here, the river. There's a group within the river that maintains the river. So I'm going to join that group and take an active role in going down and keeping the river clean and maintained. So good to hear. And I do like his channel. He's got a great channel. You could do something similar for sure. Thank you, Sam. That's a great advice. I want to do kind of what you do, which is, although I know you really, really actively study, and you're very good and diligent about that, but I want to immerse myself in. I mean, like Sam, sometimes, and those of you who aren't familiar with Sam, Tikio Sam, he's here in comments. He's another YouTuber, and Sam just totally immerses himself in. I mean, I love watching Sam when you do your motorcycle videos and you pull up to the gas station, and the conversation you have with the gas station's attendants, they're always a lot of fun. You're kind of my role model for how I want to immerse myself here. Old Tasty, that's the first time I've seen your name. Welcome. Hi Kurt, great to see you. From a regular viewer, though it's often hard to catch the live streams. You're a regular viewer, okay. I don't recall seeing your name. I apologize if you've commented in the past and I missed it. Sam goes on, you gotta be like an RPG character, just meeting people around the neighborhood and looking for side quests by helping your neighbors. They get to know you and you'll be surrounded by Japanese. Great advice, Sam. And as you know, a lot of the older people here, they don't speak any English, so that really helps to facilitate that as well. Penguin 651, hello, good morning. Good morning. I think if you are maybe looking to go back into a work environment, maybe do it sooner, as the longer into retirement, the harder it may be. Just a thought. Tim. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate that. What I would like to do, if I do anything in a work environment, is something very simple, like the equivalent of Walmart greeter. I want to be somewhere where I'm surrounded by people who don't speak English, where I can then improve my Japanese. So volunteer work seems to be, like Sam was saying, seems to be a good one, getting involved in the community. Penguin651 says, interesting about the language, as I've seen some Instagram posts that some Japanese shop owners are displaying signs saying Japanese-speaking customers only. Yeah, it is interesting. I've seen those as well. Whiskey, hi Whiskey, mate, with a full head of hair and looking like a pop star, you must be a hit down in Shizuoka. Um, well, yesterday I was in the supermarket with my wife, and I was wandering around one section, and I struck up a conversation with someone, and she did say that she had seen me around town, so I guess I do kind of stick out. And again, that was all in Japanese. So maybe that's what Yumiko means. This is really helpful talking to all of you, so to speak, because she's telling me, because when I say that I should probably go study Japanese or get a job to learn Japanese, she keeps telling me, Kurt, you're doing just fine. And even my own daughter said so. My own daughter told me, she said, Kurt, the thing about you, Dad, is that you don't hesitate. You just jump right in. I mean, every opportunity. I mean, I'll go and talk to anybody in Japanese, even though I can't speak very well. And maybe that's what Yumiko and Emily are talking about. You know, that I don't need to formalize it, because I just need to keep doing, kind of like Sam said, you know, just keep doing the community thing, right, Sam? Whiskey, you should set up a stall at the local bookshop and offer a free signing for all. Yeah, I don't know that anybody here would be interested in my book in English. Yeah, and for the most part, nobody's interested in my book, because it's not a book that's the kind of book that people read. It's I wrote that book to be what Walden was to me when I was 16. When I read Walden, I carried it around with me because it was Thoreau's experience of life codified for his readers, and it served me so well, and I would read it over and over again for decades. I carried that copy around with me. Juno the Rail Fan says, howdy Kurt, I sent you something really neat in the Discord. Thought you'd like it if you can see underneath the Shinkansen in a specific spot somewhere in Japan. You can see, wait. I think you'd like it. You can see underneath the Shinkansen in a specific spot somewhere in Japan. The video shows the coordinates as well. Oh wow, that's really interesting. Oh, Juno the Rail Fan, is this Journey? Hi Journey, if that's you. That's Heather says, that's awesome. I'm looking for a mosquito pipe again. A pig again. Mine fell last year and broke. Oh, okay. I'm looking for one too. Whiskey, yeah, the ladies don't want you to be popular, mate. You could pull in the babes for sure. Oh, wow. Penguin651, something volunteering sounds like great plan, more than hardcore employment. Yeah, I think you're right. The thing I worry about with actually getting a job is letting people down, because, you know, like, what if I get tired of it, right? I mean, they're going to want someone that's going to be hanging in there. Like, if I get a job on a fishing boat, right, and then they need me, right? You know, and doing it, you know, if I'm volunteering, then I can just like, you know. I'd like to think I'd be more committed than that. Sam says, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be more understood in Japanese. You've surrounded yourself with English speakers your whole life. Now you have no obligations or job. Best time to learn. Yeah, thank you. I think you're right. I started learning, Sam goes on, I started learning Japanese hardcore because I just hate relying on people and sounding like a child all the time. You always say the most interesting things, Sam. That's a really good point. That would probably be the strongest motivation for me as well, is to not be a burden to my family, asking them to help out with things. The other thing, Sam, is like, what if, and this is something that a viewer brought up, what if Yumiko dies first? And then I'm left on my own here. I don't want to be a burden to my daughter as well, right? Right now, Yumiko doesn't have to fill in for me very much, because she does so much. But if I have to do those things, then I'd have to do those things. Talk to the NHK guy, you know, deal with the phone service providers, so et cetera, et cetera. So it's definitely worthwhile to, of course it's worthwhile to, you know, get better at the lingo, just the how, right? Thanks for the advice, Sam. Juno says, yes, it's me. It is you, Journey. I'm sorry, I haven't seen. Did you, Journey? I don't think you even responded. Did you see what I put in the Discord in the train piece? I replicated. I did the 6 feet from the speeding Shinkansen. I put it up. I forgot to tag you, but I put it up just for you. Journey goes on. Bit of info about the Shinkansen spot is underneath a bridge. You can't drive a car underneath. You can only walk or bike underneath it. That's pretty amazing. So you can actually look up and see the Shinkansen go by with the sleepers and stuff. That's pretty interesting. I'll check it out. Or we made it to the end of comments. Oh, there's another one. Old Tasty. When thinking of your revisiting some places from your previous time in Japan, I found that the older I get, the less time I can spend in the past, metaphorically. When thinking of your revisiting some places from your previous time in Japan, are you referring to the fact that I was saying that I have lost my motivation to go back? Because I did mention that in a video sometime. I actually came to a place where I remember visiting in the past, and I thought, ooh, it'd be fun to see it again, and then I changed my mind. Not. That's less about the revisiting the past and less about the level of energy and tolerance to risk that it would take to visit that thing. But I hear what you're saying. Let me read your comment again. Been thinking of your revisiting some places from your previous time in Japan. I found that the older I get, the less time I can spend in the past. Now, the reason I want to linger on what you just said there is you have struck, Old Tasty, on something that's really important to me that I almost never talk about, but is really important to me. I'm noticing at 61 that among my peers, there seems to be two cohorts. Those of us in my age who are living in the past, literally reliving the stories, telling the stories of the past over and over again, and pining for the good old days, right? And then there's those of us, and there seems to be fewer of us, who are saying, enough of the old days. I haven't got time for reruns. I'm not going to watch Hee Haw again. I've got something else. Like I want to learn, like what's like new music, like pushing into like hip hop or other things. Like I try to do that. Like I'm into K-pop and stuff like that. And I'm not making a value discussion here. I'm talking about there seems to be a character type, right? There's characters that want the old, that pine for the old, and others that have no time for the old. And I don't know that Old Tasty, that's necessarily what you're implying here, that you have this, because you said the less. I found that the older I get, the less time I can spend in the past. If that's what you're getting at, then you and I are of a like mind, because I don't have time for the past either. That doesn't mean that when I'm hiking up a trail that I wouldn't want to revisit that trail from the past, but I don't want to live in the past. I've already lived there. And for the most part, it was really hard. Why the hell would I want to go back to any time? Like, the hardest decade of my life was my 40s. Well, 30s were pretty bad too. Why would I want to do it? Maybe Old Tasty, maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe it's because people that want to live in the past had good pasts. For the most part, my road of life has been just really rocky and I mean, I haven't had a bad life, but it's been hard. And now finally that I'm older and in peace, like I don't want to think about that stuff anymore. Thanks for pointing this out, Old Tasty. That was interesting. Tokyo Sam says, in my experience with friends with Japanese wives who speak English, the wives get a sense of importance by having to be relied on and control over their spouse. Ooh, a little harder to cheat when you can't talk. There's an interesting perspective that I hadn't thought of. Now, Sam, that's really interesting. One thing that I have noticed from Yumiko now, Yumiko retired 6 months prior to me, so she got a head start on this. Since coming to Japan, I've basically been relieved of all duties. I don't have to cook. I don't have to clean, and I'm willing to do any of those things. I don't have to do laundry. I hang the laundry. That's it. But I thought that Yumiko might be filling her life, now that she's retired and the child rearing days are done, filling her life with she loves being a homemaker. At least that seems to be the case. The way she describes it, she loves her home, filling her life with that. Now, is taking care of me part and parcel of that? It could be. It could be. It's an interesting power dynamic. I'm going to give some thought to that, Sam. Boy, all of you here. So many interesting observations. This is so helpful to me. Thank you. And hopefully it's helpful to others that are watching. Old Tasty goes on. It can quite literally feel like a hangover. You mean living through the past, thinking about the past? Well, for me, when I live in the past, it's like I feel like I've matured in the years, and it's like okay, you know what it is? It's kind of like like a previous version of myself that wasn't quite like there. Like, let me just show you. Just hang on there here for a second. Bear with me while I grab something. Okay. The book on the left, I don't know if it's left for you, the one with the landscape, this is the original, the very, very first version of Going Alone. The first one I wrote. It didn't have the Good Life Creed. It was very early. I think this is in, 2018 when I published that. And this is the final version. You can also see if you look at it here. It's thicker. It's got more chapters and stuff in it. Going back, this is full of mistakes, grammar issues, incomplete. The structure isn't the way I wanted it. This was the result of about 5 years of editing. It took me 3 years to write this, and then another 5 years to get that book to this point. Living in the past is like going backwards to this. I mean, it's good for nostalgia's sake. I keep it around because it's the first one. But if I look through it, I'm like, wow, man, I really didn't know what this is all messed up. It's all out of order. It's incorrect. There's typos. There's grammar issues. Oh, look, and there's photos of Emily in it too. Well, I didn't even know those were in there. Emily and her grandmother. It's the past, right? It's even got old photos in it. So yeah, you're right, Whiskey. I can see what you mean about a hangover, because it's kind of like, going backwards. And then Sam says, not saying that's the case for you. I know you're not saying that. But you're making an observation from your own experience, but it's interesting to think about, right? I will tell you this. Yumiko and I have always had this. We've lived back and forth between the United States and Japan. This is our 5th time to do this. And we've always had kind of a tacit agreement, which is whenever we're in whichever country we're in, the native is the leader, right? And she even recently, she told me, I think it was like a month or so ago, she said it's strange, because our last stint was in the United States. 10 plus, almost 11 years in the United States. And she told me, she said, Yumiko, my wife, said, it's hard to get used to being here in Japan and doing things for you, Kurt, because when we were in America, you did everything. So that would speak to kind of what you're saying, Sam, about the control. But that would also speak to the reciprocal nature of that, right? Whereas when I'm in America, and I did absolutely everything in America. And when we're here, she does absolutely everything here. You know what, maybe, Sam? Maybe also, this is possible. If I get better at Japanese, then I get to have a say in things that could muck up the works, right? Because I definitely, for sure, Yumiko knows how to operate in this paradigm. I call her the last Showa wife. Because she knows how to do everything the way it's supposed to be done. Because Sam, you'll know this. Any of you who know Japan, there's the way you're supposed to do it, right? And I don't do anything the way you're supposed to do it in Japan. And if I become more immersed in the language and better capable, then I'm going to be sticking my foot in where it may not belong or may not be welcome, right? You've hit upon something there, Sam. I think you have. And then Journey says, yes, exactly that. It is very loud, though, so bring hearing protection. Oh, okay. Thanks for the warning, Journey. But Journey, if it's anywhere other than like within 30 minutes of where I live, I'm not going there. Okay, that's not true. I am going, on the 29th, I'm going down to Osaka. I've been invited. A couple of announcements, guys. I keep forgetting to do this. I've been invited down to Osaka to be on the Unpacking Japan podcast. Those guys are buying me some tickets on the Shinkansen, and I'll whip down there to do that. So, but it'll only be the reason I don't travel very much is that I've got this little needy little dog right here. There he is, and he needs me, and I can't be separated from him. So I don't go very far without him. But I will go down for a half day down to Osaka. And the second announcement is that I'll be on 2.5 Oyajis on June 1st. That's with Hiko and Victor. They've invited me on to catch up. Okay, going on. Old Tasty says, yep. TKO Sam says, but yeah, you have plenty of time now to learn Japanese and branch out and meet Japanese people and go full bore on this. No need to make excuses on why it wouldn't work. Gauge the expectations, you know. Thank you, Sam. I appreciate that. It's and you're right. I have time to do it, and I can do it at the pace and in the manner that works. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I always appreciate your advice about learning Japanese. You are a role model for how that's done. In, of course, your own way, Sam. Your inimitable way. You're interpreting it correctly. Oh, good. I'm glad I got that. I interpreted that correctly, Old Tasty. Do you notice the same thing, Old Tasty? And I wonder how you feel about that, because you get people our age. I'm assuming you're my age. You get people who keep wanting to drag us back to the past, right? I'm like, no, I'm not going back to the past. I'm going to the future, and I'm going to the Twice concert, K-pop concert with my daughter instead. And Penguin 651 says, this is what I say, Kurt. Retirement is a new chapter and beginning, not the end. Tim. Yeah, you're right. And it's been difficult getting used to it, Tim. Trying to find my way. Tim. Tim, is this Tim from LinkedIn? LinkedIn Tim? Maybe that's who you are. Maybe that's who you are. If so, well, hi, whatever Tim you are. I certainly recognize your screen name there, Penguin 651, even though I don't say it right. But you're right. I know, and I agree. It is the beginning of a new one. It's taking me a little while to get through the transitional period, but I think I'm almost there. Sam says, you're a tourist in your own nostalgia, sick boy, train spotting. You're a tourist in your own nostalgia. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. A tourist in your own nostalgia. There's too much new stuff, right? I don't want to live in the past. Robert says hi Penguin, and Penguin says hi to Robert. So I guess that's a good way to kind of bring it to an end. Penguin says, no, I'm in Staffordshire in West Midlands. LOL, Tim. Oh, okay. Sorry, Tim. There's been a gentleman on LinkedIn. And what a very, very different dynamic LinkedIn is. There's a gentleman on LinkedIn named Tim we've been DMing each other. On LinkedIn, I have a group of connections who are mostly men my age. About half of them are married to a Japanese spouse, living abroad and conspiring to come back to Japan like this. So this whole retiring in Japan brand has really turned out, it's really touched a nerve, a positive nerve. There are so many people my age, in my circumstance, married to a Japanese, approaching the end of their career, approaching the empty nest years, and dreaming about coming back to Japan. And I've become kind of like an ambassador for that, having done it. Well, there's lots of other people, and there's lots of people that have done it. The difference is, I wrote a book. Oh yeah, I wrote a book, if you check it out, Retiring in Japan, on the subject. And I'm actively making YouTube videos about it each and every day, sharing the subject. So there's that. And I think we reached the end. This was a long one, guys, 54 minutes. Thank you all for joining me. I wish all of you the very best along the way. And if you, I would like to say be safe, but not too safe, but you can be as safe or not as you like. Take care. Have a great day.